Hey everybody, Michael from RogueDeckBuilder.com here doing a Deck Tech Doctor episode. This has been sitting on the shelf for a little while now, and this deck is brought to us by Juki Star on YouTube, or Jucky Star. Apologies if I mispronounced that. And apologies for making this video a little bit late. University got in the way. It's finals month, so life does that. I don't have another final for a couple of weeks now, so hopefully I can get some content out for you guys. And this deck is a Izzet Combat combo deck. Now what I mean by that is you're playing Izzet, then you're running Nivix Cyclops, and then you're playing Teleportal, Armed and Dangerous, and some other instant or pump spell to pretty much swing for lethal in one turn is essentially what the goal of this deck is. I love these decks. They're very fun to play, and they're very difficult to play as well. Especially in Standard, when there's not very many ways to protect the deck and things like that. So that's a little bit tough. Now, I would say the largest problem with this deck is just the inconsistency of it. I feel that with the instances you have and the random planeswalker and the amount of lands you have, things like that, it's going to make the deck a little bit tougher to play than you normally would. Like you said, you have about a 20% win rate against the top tier Esper, Azorius Control, and Mono Black Devotion decks, which seems about right. It should be on the low side, honestly. I mean, you're playing a lower tier deck essentially, but at the same time, I think that there is ways to up that percentage, and consistency problems is I think the first thing that you should fix. What I mean by that is you have a lot of interesting draws and a lot of interesting card choices, I guess you could say. So the first thing I would say is, one of my friends actually built a deck similar to this, and when she was building it, one thing I suggested to her was actually first of all, go Grixis. It opens you up to some removal, a little bit more ways to search through your deck, and a lot more ways to protect your combo pieces. And I think that's a little bit better the better way to go. I know going white gives you access to cards like Boros, Charm, God's Willing, Chain to the Rocks, things like that. But at the same time, I think that there's better cards out there when you go black. And when you're playing a combo deck, you essentially want every single card to go towards that combo. And if there's a card that's not doing that, then I think that you need to remove it. And that's probably the best way to fix your consistency problems, is by doing that. Because when you have a lot of instances and sorceries that aren't going to be doing much in the deck, it's going to open your deck up to inconsistency problems. You have a lot of burn, for example, but you're not playing a burn deck. You're playing a combo deck with Nivix Cyclops, so every card should go towards working with Nivix Cyclops, things like that. You want to be killing them in one turn, or you're not killing them at all, essentially, with these decks. And you're playing just a very mediocre burn deck essentially with what you have now. You have to be playing a lot more burn spells, and of course going Boros and things like that to utilize the burn spells the most. I realize it does work with Flux Charger and Nivix Cyclops and things like that, but again, like I said, you want to be killing them in one turn. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Nivix Cyclops can still be chumped, things like that. Flux Charger I find is a little bit, I personally don't like the card just because it's either a 1/5 that just sits there, or it's a 5/1 that dies very easily. Now, again, it's tough to say. It depends on the decks you're playing against mostly. I prefer Nivix Cyclops because you can get it out a little bit earlier than Flux Charger, and that's the main thing, is you want to be getting this combo out on turn 4. Turn 4 is the earliest you're going to be able to do the combo, and that's when you're going to be really wanting to do it. Flux Charger slows down your deck a little bit too much, and same with like Frostburn Word, things like that. Frostburn Word might be a sideboard choice just for against aggro decks or things like that, but overall you want a little bit more utility, I think, in the deck to really protect your combo pieces. And that is why I suggest going black instead of white for the third color and making it Grixis, is because it gives you access to cards like Thoughtseize, Duress, and it gives you straight removal rather than running, Change the Rocks, Boros Charm, and God's Willing. Like, you already have Mizium Skin to protect Nivix Cyclops from Doom Blades or things like that. God's Willing does, it does allow you to swing through and get some damage in. But again, like I said, you want to be killing them in one turn, not, 2 or 3 turns. You just want to be gathering your combo pieces in your hand and then just unleashing them in one turn is pretty much the goal of this deck. Going black allows you to play Thoughtseize, some spot removal to protect yourself from creatures. Gives you access to cards like Diabolic Tutor if you're just looking for that one last pump spell to use the combo next turn or something like that, or even the turn right away. There's a lot of different options for you, and I think that's the best way to go. Boros Charm's nice, but when you're playing against Supreme Verdict and things like that, those are cards that are really hard to play around, honestly. And I think if you play Duress and Thoughtseize, you're able to just strip it from their hand anyway, so you don't really need Boros Charm. And again, you're not playing a pump spell or things like that. When you're playing 4 Armed and Dangerous anyways, it's not very hard to at least get one in your hand, or multiple in your hand possibly. So I don't think you need to worry about having another way to double strike or anything of that sort. I think the only thing I would keep would probably just be a couple of Lightning Strike, just because there are times where Nivix Cyclops only hits for like 17 damage or 18 damage and it doesn't quite kill them, so having that little bit of burn is nice, but I definitely would take out a lot of the burn that you have. And even like Magma Jet, for example, I would rather, again, this is another reason why to play black, is because it gives you access to cards like Read the Bones, where it allows you to fix 2 draws, plus draw those 2 cards. So it really allows you to set up the combo, because when you're digging for cards, you want essentially looking for very specific cards for your combo. And Magma Jet allows you to do that, but at the same time, it doesn't really do much else. The 2 damage is irrelevant in your type of deck. The Scry 2 is nice, but Read the Bones does that as well. Plus, it allows you to draw those 2 cards right away, so you can do the combo the next turn. Magma Jet, you have to wait a whole turn. It gets a little bit icky. And, Read the Bones still gives you a way to, activate Nivix Cyclops if you absolutely need to. Just a little bit of bonus. But, like, cards like Shock and, like, Is It Charm, I personally would get rid of those cards and make room for other things. More specifically, I would probably up your land count. 21 land is quite on the low side. I probably wouldn't run anything less than 23 lands, honestly. You want to be able to get quite a bit of land going, just to be able to have access to a lot of different things, counters, things like that, to protect your combo pieces, essentially. And that is one thing that I would include, is some counters in your deck, whether it be negates or essence scatters or things like that. Protect yourself against planeswalkers or anything that you don't really want to hit the board. And because that's one big problem, is you don't really have a lot of ways to deal with creatures once they're on the board. I mean, you do have, or just anything once it hits the board. I mean, you do have Chained to the Rocks and things like that, but I think there's better ways to go about it. And I have to say, just making your deck consistent is probably the best thing you can do for this deck. And I definitely would recommend taking out a lot of the burn and really trying to find cards a little bit more suitable for the Nivix Cyclops combo. For instance, one card I definitely would suggest is Titan Strength. Reason being is Titan Strength really ups the damage count on the combo to ensure that you can actually kill them in one turn. Plus, it's 1 mana, so it's a little bit more efficient. You get a Scry, which is great, and at the same time, it still is an instant that works well with Nivix Cyclops. It also makes finishers a little bit easier, just being able to, even if you've done a little bit of damage early on in the game, you have access to Teleportal, but you don't have access to like Arm and Dangerous or something like that. Titan Strength still allows you to do a ton of damage with the Nivix Cyclops and hopefully kill them in that turn. So that's probably the main thing, is take out a lot of the cards, take out a lot of the burn, and find a little bit more utility type cards, whether it be counters, or I definitely would up the count of Mizium Skin if you're going to be taking out God's Willing. I also would probably take out Ralzeric. Ralzeric really doesn't do anything. He seems very random in this deck. Ralzeric's the type of planeswalker where you really need to be playing more cards to support him. And again, you're not playing a burn deck, so even his -2 is not very relevant. and you don't really have any way of protecting him, so that's a very big problem as well. Counters and things like that will help you protect him. What else? I think that's pretty much it, honestly. Like that's the main thing. Is you have the core combo. You have Nivix, Cyclops, Teleportal, Armed and Dangerous. I think Titan Strength would be something else to add. And then on top of that, I would probably up the land count, take out Ralzeric, and then take out a good chunk of your burn. You could probably keep a couple Lightning Strike in there. But other than that, I probably would run other cards that would fit toward getting, protecting Nivix Cyclops, or at least getting it online, or just other ways to utilize it. Because again, when you're playing a combo deck, you gotta have every single card be towards that combo. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to too many inconsistent and dead draws. That is going to make your deck really hard to play. And I think you're going to be able to up your win percentage just by making the deck a little bit more consistent than it normally is. So that would be my suggestion. I would also, again, like I suggested to my friend, I would go Grixis. I would go red, black, blue, just because Thoughtseize is awesome. Duress works well against control decks, which is one of the decks you seem to be having problems with, as well as some better spot removal than Chain to the Rocks and Diabolic Tutor and Read the Bones. Just a lot more ways to manipulate your deck as well. But first and foremost, work on making the deck a little bit more consistent, and then go from there. But feel free to let me know how things go. If you've already had better success since you last messaged me with this deck, or other changes you've made or things like that. Or if you do make changes, feel free to send me another deck list, and I'll definitely take another look at it. But other than that, I think that's all I have to say about the deck. And again, just to reiterate, consistency. That is the best way to up your win percentage with these types of decks, or honestly any deck. Making it consistent it should be people's main goal when they're building a deck. But yeah, thank you for watching. Again, anyone else who has a similar deck, feel free to leave suggestions for Juki Star, and I'm sure he'll read them once he watches the video. But until next time, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.